Hello and welcome to BQ Prime. I'm Hiral Dadia. Joining us on the show is Mr. Rajkumar Baheti, CFO at Alembic Pharmaceuticals, joining in. As we know, Alembic Pharmaceuticals has received their first US FDA approval for its Jarur Facilities Formulation Division 4. To discuss this in more detail, welcome to the show, Mr. Rajkumar.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hiral.
Mr. Rajkumar, firstly, if you could just help us with the details in terms of the approval and what's going to be the market size in terms of the manufacturing.
Okay. As you know, in last 2 years, we have commissioned 3 new facilities, and that's how we have named it. So F2 facility is for oncology, both injectable and OSD. F3 is for general injectable, and F4 is again an OSD facility, which was a backup to our oldest facility, F1, where we were facing some capacity issues. So the latest approval is essentially not a new ANDA approval. It's essentially a pass approval. Pass is like when you want to shift one product from one side to another side, you make an application. If your facility is meeting the requirements, they give you approval because the product is already evaluated by them. So what we have got now is a pass approval for a product, pregabalin, which was being already manufactured by us at F1. Okay. The good part, I mean, what good we make out of it is that this facility was inspected just 2 weeks back, and there were some 4-5 observations by FDA. Having received this approval so very quickly, vindicates or reiterates our statement that the issues were FDA observations were more procedural and are addressable, which we are addressing. So that's a good part. It doesn't change the business outlook because a product, whether I manufacture it at F1 or F4, it doesn't add incremental value to us. How it will add incremental value is once we shift some of these products for which we have filed pass, we will vacate F1 facilities capacity, and there the newer and the smaller volume products can be taken care of. As I explained you in the past, probably we discussed, F4 is large volume facility we have created. So some of the smaller large volume which currently we are manufacturing at F1, we will shift it eventually to F4 and have more specialized small volume products at F1, the older facility.
Right. So overall, from this facility, if you could help me understand what's the kind of potential revenues that we're looking at?
It would depend on, okay, so as of now, okay, before that, we have filed 4 products, 2 for pass and 2 for ANDH. So ANDH will be an incremental revenue for the company. Pass would only be an unit-wise distribution. But if you ask me, this facility, when commissioned fully, can give us a revenue of 150 to 200 crores annually. But that would take some time. Let me tell you, that will take at least 1.5 to 2 years.
And what's the incremental revenue we're looking at in terms of FY23 itself?
No, FY23, there won't be any incremental revenue from this facility because, as I said, this is only a pass approval we got. We have not got any ANDA approval as yet. I mean, now we expect that to happen, but it will come in its own priority or its own what we call the queuing system. But in 23-24, definitely we expect revenues to start flowing for this unit.
Right. And overall, with this unit, it's going to be the approvals that we've gotten are mainly for oncology, right?
No, that is from F1. Oncology, yeah, oncology approvals, which one we received only a couple of days back. That is from F2. As I was explaining, F2 has 2 parts. One is an injectable part, onco-injectable, and the other is onco-OSD. So the last approval which you are referring to is from F2 injectable, onco-injectable part. Right. It's a very interesting product that has a market size of almost 70 million USD, and probably, I mean, let's see, we expect to get good revenue from that.
Okay. And overall, apart from that, taking how big the API business is for Alembic as well, what's the impact of COVID resurfacing in China?
So to be honest, as of now, we have not felt much of impact because when you import a raw material, you always carry some buffer inventory. So as of now, we have not seen any serious disruption in supplies also. But what we have seen in last 2 weeks is the suppliers are increasingly cautioning us of a possible supply disruptions in future,
Hmm.
and we are also taking the similar steps. See, let me clarify to you and your viewers. Most of you are aware also that
Hmm.
we are not so much dependent on API for our international business. We make most of the APIs in house. But
Hmm.
API, imported API, particularly, and we import API from other than Chinese sources for our international business, even where we procure it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Our domestic business is quite heavily dependent on Chinese imports because that gives me the price
Correct.
advantage. Okay, so the import disruption, if any, will impact my domestic business, but for which at least we have supplies good enough for next 3 4 months.
Hmm. Got it. Got it. And have you seen an
What is
increase
happening
in
is,
terms of prices?
so I was coming to that. What is
Hmm.
happening is not so much of disruption in supply, but yeah, some of the material we have seen, and material which is connected with cough, cold, even some kind of an infection. If prices have already gone up, raw material prices have already gone up by 10 15%.
Hmm. Hmm. So do you think that's something which will hit our margins from an industry perspective as well?
So, not on an immediate basis, but if this situation continues or worsens, then sure, of course. Because, uh, pharma products price increases comes only at a particular time gap, and
Hmm.
that some of them are WPI linked, some of them are not linked, and there can be an annual maximum increase of 10% is allowed. In any case, the inflation last year has been running pretty high, so margins will take a hit if there is a raw material price increase which is little sustained. Short
Right.
term is part of life. I mean, we don't really
Hmm.
factor.
Hmm. Right. Another thing, Mr. Baheti, that is working overall is the flu season in the US that has started early in 2022 as well. And in fact, there are reports suggesting that the initial surge in flu cases have been the highest versus the past 7 to 8 years. Now, taking Alembic into consideration, I think we almost have a 20 to 25% market share in Tamiflu, as well as a 17 to 20% market share with regards to where azithromycin is concerned, right? So how big a benefit is that from a US market perspective for us?
So Tamiflu has helped us in this early flu has helped us in Tamiflu definitely. The volumes have gone up.
Hmm.
Even I think the price realization has also improved a bit. How sustainable it would be, we don't know, because we believe some volume increases were also due to little safety stocking by the distributors. As far as azithromycin is concerned, we have not yet seen a major impact on volumes. So azithromycin was a very favored drug during the COVID second wave. Post that, actually, COVID cases in US are also increasing, but we have not seen much of spurt of azithromycin volumes. I'm saying overall for the industry, not that we have not got
Right,
one,
right,
but our market
right.
share stays the same.
Right. So overall, how much is the increase are we anticipating in terms of potential revenue on the back of early onset of the flu season?
Actually, in the overall context of things, that one product is too small a product. I mean, to be honest.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
what I wanted to convey to you and your viewers is, while the volume wise Indian industry, generic industry is generally doing good, we are doing better with a lot of newer introductions. What has hurt us, the entire industry, I mean, has got hurt because of low prices, price erosion because of oversupply. So today we are struggling with the US market not for getting business, but for getting prices.
Hmm.
Now, with these kind of large facilities and having made large investments in R&D, you are not no choice but to continue to supply to US market, and there the price drops has really hurt the margins. So that is the area of concern, not the volumes.
Mm, mm. Right. And how is
In
the
spite of
industry planning
to
to
answer
address
your
it?
sorry, to answer your earlier question more, what do I say directly? While you would see us making more activity, more volume, more production, more supplies, more sales, our value term sales would not see a much
See,
increase.
exactly. So how is the industry planning to counter this problem in terms of the price erosion in the US?
I don't think any company is big enough to influence that decision.
Hmm.
Uh, and there are very strong anti-competition law in anti-competition trust laws in India. So you can't really, even you are not supposed to even speak to each other, to your competitor, or you can't exchange, of course, messages and mails, but you can't even speak. So I think I don't think there is a short-term solution to this.
Right.
As we
And
have learned in
overall,
the past,
hmm,
sorry,
hmm.
as
Go
we
on,
as
go
we
on.
have
Yeah.
learned in the past, it's a bit cyclic. So there'll be a situation of oversupply for some time, then some people get out of the market. Some either very large players get out of the market because this is too small and too bothersome for them, or some small players get out of the market because they can't sustain this kind of pricing for long, and then the equilibrium again establishes. So this has happened in US. uh, I have been in industry for long enough to have seen 4 5 such cycles. You really do not know when it will bottom and when it will start rising
Hmm.
again.
Right, right. So overall, from a FY23 and say FY24 perspective, what's the outlook looking like and where do you see growth coming from?
So we are not very optimistic on outcome as far as FY23 is concerned, which is almost now gone. A quarter
Hmm.
is left, and I don't expect any changes in quarter 3. I don't expect any significant changes even in first 2 quarters of FY24.
Hmm.
This price pressure will continue. The only thing we can do as companies is um, uh, trim our cost to the extent possible, keep ourselves little nimble footed, and keep our margins and
Hmm.
keep our market share and keep pushing the volumes. And we hope for the better prices. One, but Indian industry has one thing to cheer, and we are better off in that. Is the domestic business is doing very well. So domestic business, which had gone through a 2 very poor years because of COVID, lockdowns, footfalls not being with the doctor
Hmm.
chambers, etc., etc. Last 1 year or so, it has been consistently doing well. It has been doing well in last 3 4 months more, and we have a market outperforming. We have delivered our market outperforming performance
Hmm.
so far. So that gives you I mean, on any day, Indian business was always a little predictable, sustainable, margins intact with whatever price changes which is governed by the government. But otherwise, we are happy with our Indian business.
Right. So would it be right to say that the domestic business is performing better than the export business overall, though there are volumes that are coming in from the export business as well, but it's pricing pressure which is keeping us subdued.
Of course, your statement is right. Domestic business is today far in a better and in a stronger position than the international business.
Right.
For us, as well as generally for the industry,
Industry as well.
except
And
for
very
companies which are in specialty business and which has specialty products and they have
right.
their own. Yeah.
And very lastly, Mr. Baheti, in terms of the second half of FY23, will we see similar growth that we saw in the first half of FY23?
For the domestic business and API, yes. For the international business, not really.
Okay, right. All right, Mr. Baheti, thank you so much for speaking to us at BQ Prime. Inputs really matter, and the kind of information and intelligence that we gather from you is absolutely crucial as well. But thank you so much for joining us on the show,
Pleasure,
and
pleasure
Happy New
always
Year in
talking to you.
advance.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you and your viewers. Thank you.